So this is Cleopatra, and we are on part 2. There's going to be a lot of parts because I'm doing like 15-minute blocks here. So that said, okay, just checking the time. And so we're starting on page 13 if you're reading along. And we're on the 8th of January, just before sunset. 5 days have passed since my father disappeared. The snake that killed his slave Mento is still loose in the palace. Its moist trail was last seen near the bath. Servants are looking everywhere, but it hides itself well. I'm careful where I step and where I sit. This morning, Arrow and I were in one of the small palace courtyards, enjoying the winter sunlight, when I heard shouts. I could see Kristiana down a hallway, pacing back and forth, her arms waving angrily. She was yelling at an official who held a scroll and who seemed to be pleading with her. I overheard words that brought joy to my heart. Father's alive. He's still king, and he sent a message to my sister. If she doesn't stop pretending to be queen, he'll have her executed. His own daughter. At this, I slipped away so she wouldn't see me, Arrow quietly by my side. To continue, for the rest of the morning, I wandered along the harbor with Neva, my favorite maid. We were dressed in the linen chittens of common Greek girls so we could pass unnoticed among the fishermen. Rather than have her carry my sandals as usual, I held them myself so we would appear as two equals. I can look plain and unroyal when I want to. Also, because I'm able to speak with native Egyptians in their own language, I can mingle in the agora, the marketplace, without drawing attention to myself, a privacy I much enjoy. If commoners know a princess walks among them, they'll either smother her with affection or they'll bother her with problems that belong to the king. One of my favorite guards, Puso, followed at a discreet distance. He's from the island of Sicily, but as a youth, he was enslaved by the Romans and trained as a gladiator. He was fierce and proud, often compared to the famous Spartacus. When he was sent to Alexandria for the amusement of my father, I bought his freedom before he was forced to fight. Ever since, Puso has kept me safe. When we're in public together, if I wish not to be noticed, he disguises himself often as an Arab in a dishdasha, a flowing white robe. Near the water's edge, Neva and I met a Hebrew man selling figs and barley loaves from his cart. We purchased enough for our midday meal and then walked out to Pharaoh's Island on Stadion. This is a stone bridge that's high enough for boats to sail under from our east harbor to the west. It's 1 mile long, a bridge that's 1 mile long. Out here, we can speak privately. Small tide pools among the rocks draw flocks of seagulls that shriek and cry with a noise loud enough to keep anyone nearby from hearing our conversation. Neva is pure Macedonian Greek, like I am, descended from the royal servants of Ptolemy I. I, of course, am descended from Ptolemy himself, direct descendant. Though Neva and I share the same light skin and blue eyes and can pass as sisters, we're content in our inherited roles. She is maid and I as princess. A skilled listener makes a good friend, and this perfectly describes Neva. She's a few years older than I, perhaps 15. I trust her with my life. My secrets are hers. To my knowledge, she's never betrayed my confidence. This morning, as we stepped around the tide pools, there were 2 things I wanted to tell her. First, I fear father will be murdered. And if he is, I, Cleopatra, want to be and should be queen. This may seem an odd confession, but my thoughts are sound. Father has 6 living children by 2 wives, long dead. I have no memory of my mother, for I was quite small when she died. Father's daughters are Kristiana, Berenice, myself, and Arsinoe. His sons are just babies, Ptolemy I and Ptolemy the younger. They're all named Ptolemy. Of all my siblings, I'm the only one who can speak the language of the Egyptians and other foreigners who live in our beautiful city, Alexandria. For reasons unknown to myself, the gods have gifted me with learning tongues. Just from my daily visits to the agora and fishing villages, I've learned to speak with the peasants from Ethiopia, Syria, and Arabia. I'm beginning to better understand the Hebrew scholars by studying in the library and museum, our great learning center dedicated to the 9 muses. The muses, of course, are our Greek goddesses of poetry, music, art, and so forth. This gift of befriending people will make me a better queen than Tryphena, who hates the Jews and the Medes. And it'll help me be better than Berenice, the sister I love, who's too afraid of the streets to venture out of our royal apartments. A queen must understand her subjects and care for them. And this describes me. I'm sorry to say this about little Arsinoe, because she's just 9 years old, but she is as spoiled and as mean as our eldest sister, Tryphena. If father's killed, then one of us will become pharaoh. I don't want him to die, but I do want to be ready if necessary to be Egypt's next ruler, the best ever known. I must apply myself to gain wisdom. How does one do that? To continue. After eating our meal, Neva and I walked in the wet sand below the lighthouse where the tiniest waves roll in. Puso sat on the jetty looking like an Arab in deep thought, but I knew he was watching me with a protective eye. Because this beach is protected from wind and surf, it's warmer, even in winter. We waded up to our knees, swishing our hands in the cold water and splashing our faces. It was so refreshing, I did it again and again, happy that I didn't allow Neva to paint me with cosmetics this morning. The black ochre stings my eyes if not washed off carefully. The nearer I am to the ocean, the more content I feel. I love smelling the salt air and watching the waves break against the outer rocks. Far out to sea, the horizon looks bumpy and specks of white. This time of year, the Mediterranean is empty of ships because the wind is too wild. Though Rome is a long ocean voyage to the northwest, Father has worried for years about pirates or worse, a surprise attack from Julius Caesar. Curses on him, the barbarian. His cruel legions march wherever they're ordered, conquering new lands with their catapults and their siege machines. Father's told me that he will not let them have Egypt ever, especially our city, Alexandria. We're a sovereign state. We rule ourselves. The Roman Empire shall not conquer us. That's why our royal fleet keeps ready for battle by having its sailors mend sails and lines, and the soldiers practice their weapons. The oarsmen, who are our strongest slaves from Ethiopia, keep alert by rowing the warships out into the rough waves and then back again, day after day, no matter the weather. It's dark now. Moments ago, I walked out onto the terrace to watch the remains of the sun on the sea. In our eastern harbor, torches are being lit on our little island called Antaratus. Here among the rocks sits a beautiful little palace that I secretly call my own, but it really belongs to the entire royal family. Inside the palace are several golden statues of my father, the king, posing like a sphinx. Also, there are marble busts of my older sisters and myself. The artist who carved my likeness sculpted me with an Egyptian headdress and a cobra, but truly I prefer wearing my hair in the Greek style without such heavy adornments. The 12th of January, yes. It's evening again. I'll sleep now. Well now, knowing that father is safe from the crowds who threaten him. He's hiding somewhere up the Nile, his exact whereabouts known only by his closest advisors. I have sent Pusa with another guard to observe Tryphena in case she's up to evil. Neva has readied my cushions and lit a small lamp with cinnamon oil and is now resting on her pallet at the foot of my bed. She will not let herself sleep until I do. I look at Neva's sweet face and I thank the gods for her loyalty. Did I mention she's my reader as well? During my bath is when I most love to hear her voice. Today, I listened for an hour as she read from Homer's Odyssey, one of my favorite poems. She does it so dramatically too. We both love this adventure of Odysseus that describes his voyage after the Battle of Troy. Out of the window, the sea looks black except for a flicker of light flashing across the waves. This is the beacon from our lighthouse that burns all day and all night, a comfort for those living on the northern part of Africa. The only thing I do not like about this perpetual flame is that if the Romans are marching this way or are foolish enough to sail through winter storms, they'll easily find us. There's no hiding in the darkness. if there was even one spark of light. To continue, just a few moments ago, Berenice came in to show me her hair. Her maids have braided it into dozens of tiny rows in the style of the Nubians. Look, Cleopatra, she said, turning on her feet as a dancer does. Lamplight reflected off the assorted gems that had been woven into her braids. Some were rubies, others were diamonds. I suspect they'd been stolen from father's jewelry chest, but I had never seen her with so many. Berenice wore two silk chittens, one draped over the other to show layers of blue and emerald, an elegant look. She wore gold bracelets on each bare arm. Her eyes were shadowed with violet and black liner. Her earrings were pearl. You look beautiful, I said, knowing that's what she wanted to hear. And because she is indeed beautiful, what I shall tell her is not tell her is how foolish she looks with tiny gold rings in her left nostril, 3 of them. It looks slavish and common. Then she glided out of my chamber and disappeared down the hall. Another banquet, more dancers, musicians await her. No doubt Tryphaena's already there. Tonight, I'm happy to just be 12. Too young to be expected at royal parties. My only worry at this moment is the puff adder, still sliding along the floor somewhere in the palace. We keep finding its curved track in the hallways, courtyards, and our private chambers. This horrifies me. Whoever set it on my father's bed many days ago is probably happily waiting to hear of the next victim. I have told Arrow to catch the snake, but who can tell a cat what to do? I gathered my fingers in the fur around her neck and looked sternly in her golden eyes. And I gave her my order. She blinked once, twice, and then batted my shoulder with her huge paw before turning away to do what she pleases. Arrow is too spoiled to care about catching a snake. The fragrance of Berenice's perfume lingers pleasantly as I ready myself for bed. My hourglass has run out. Oh, Isis, please help me sleep safely tonight. That's where we're going to stop for today. See you next time.